Hey folks, it's John. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be assembling some frames. It is Friday, January the 14th, and too cold outside to be working the bees. So we're going to be inside making some frames. Now I'm going to show you how I do it. It's not the quickest way. It's not even the best way, just the way that I do it. I do it in this way. You could build some jigs to get things moving a little quicker. But I usually build 10 to 20 frames at a time. I'm not worried about the jig. I'm just coming out here to kill some time. Just get off work and thought, hey, let's make some frames. So stay tuned. I'll show you how I do it. Okay, real simple process. If they came from the factory and made correctly, it should be pretty simple. I take the top bar, put a little dab of glue on it, right there, and right there. Take the sides, if you want to, you can put another dab of glue right there. And you just force it down right there and squeeze it on nice and tight. Again, you could put some more glue here if you want to. You don't have to. I am using Tight Bond 2. There are some people that want to use Tight Bond 3 because it's waterproof and it may be better, but I've never had a problem with Tight Bond 2. I'm also going to put a dab right here on this top one. Dab right here on this top one here. And I'll put the bottom one in and squeeze that down. If it came in good from the factory, nice and sharp, I've got a nice square frame. Now what I'll do is I'll sit this one down on the floor, out of my way. I'm gonna let it stand there. I'm gonna get about 10 or so of these done, and then I'll go with my nailing and stapling. I'll show you how I do that here in a second. So this is a two-step process. It's also the QA/QC part of building the frame. So I'm going to come in first with a 5/8 inch brad nail, and I'm going to put it in all four corners. I realize it's overkill, but I just would rather be safe than sorry, especially when you're carrying deeps full of brood, full of honey, whatever it may be. Those frames can get kind of heavy, so I want to make sure they're secured. So I'll come around, just eyeball it, make sure it's all squared up, put a brad in there. Make sure that one's kind of square. And then squeeze in from both sides here. Squeeze in from both sides there. And we got the first one done. Now I flip it over typically, and I'll still do the same thing. All four corners. Again, this is more than what's necessary. I get it. I would just rather be safe than sorry. And at this point in time, part of the QA/QC is to go back over and wipe off any excess glue that you may have. Not going to hurt anything once it dries, but I would just rather keep my frames as clean as possible. So that's the initial process, and then we'll come back in with some staples, and I'll show you how that goes in a second. Now for good measure, I like to come back with a 1-inch staple. I'm going to go one in each end from the bottom. And one from the top. And that should be a pretty sturdy frame. I shouldn't have any problems with that one. The hardest part of this whole process is waiting for my small 3-gallon air compressor to pump back up in pressure, but it's a pretty simple process. Again, there's quicker ways to do this, but I usually just do a few small frames at a time, so I'm not spending a lot of time building a jig, but there are good videos out there on how to build a frame building jig to make sure it's square. You can do it a lot quicker, I guess, apparently, but I like taking my time. This gives me something to do out in the wood shop, and I don't mind it at all, so. More pressure. This is the $1 million frame rack. You can put old frames in, you can put new frames in. You can build it however you want to and design it however tall you want to. I know I just went to a big box hardware store, got the cheapest pine lumber I could get, and built some frames, built some shelving that would fit just ideally for the frames, whether they're deeps, whether they're mediums. If I knew I was going all mediums, I could have set the shelf spacing a little lower. I want to make sure I had plenty of room to move around. So I can put dirty frames in here, I can put clean frames in here. I don't know how many this will hold, maybe 500. I could have gone a lot taller, but I'm not a tall guy, so I don't want to get up in the box and go up 8 feet. So I just went up to probably like 5'10" or so as the top one, easy to reach. Put some cross bracing on the ends. I'll show you here that in a minute with a picture. But that's all you need. If you don't have a frame rack at home in your bee yard, your bee barn, your bee workshop, I highly recommend you getting one. It's a whole lot easier to build frames in one location and then install them in the boxes as necessary. Put them in the supers, brood chambers as you need to. Gives you an idea of what you need to clean up, what you don't, types of foundation. And before I put these in, since these are brand new frames, before I put them in a nuke, before I put them in a brood box, anything, I'm going to take a permanent marker. I'm going to write on there the year, so 2022, and I'll mark it so I know. In 3 or 4 years, I want to make sure these things are gone, sell them in nukes or whatever. But I want to rotate my frames and foundations out. So these are wooden foundations, but make sure you have a frame rack. Trust me, it comes in super handy. Don't forget that tip. Again, just cheap old pine wood from a big box store. Make sure you have cross bracings on either end. Down here, like you see at the bottom. Over here, you can see on the bottom, and then on the back. It's fairly sturdy. And then periodically, I will put a board running through just to keep these things from spacing out. So you can see I've got a brace here going between here, and I thought I had another one on this one. Got one right here. You can see how it goes there. Just keep it all in alignment so that it's going to fit the frame size every time we do it. So I just went up maybe 5'10", close to 6 foot possibly, and I cut off the excess to use for cross braces. As you can see, cross bracing right there. Nothing fancy, but it works.